Hi, my name is Tyler, and if you're watching this, you're probably in year 11 or in the beginning of year 12, and this is just a short video about 5 things I personally wish I knew at the beginning of my year 12 journey. Number 1, organization. Organization is something that you really just need to be on top of for your A-levels. I was somebody who tried to keep everything. Number 1, organization. Organization is something that I really wish I was on top of since the beginning of year 12. I've always kind of been an organized person, but you just really need to step up your organization skills when it comes to A-levels, just because you never know what you're going to be given. I was somebody who tried to remain as digital as possible, not wanting to have a bunch of loose papers around and everything. But even still, I've accumulated so much paper from handouts that I was given in the Sixthform, certificates, handouts in class, homework. Sometimes when it's like last minute, you don't really have the time to scan those things. Certain resources, it's just, you can't do everything online. I've tried. It's easier just to take the piece of paper sometimes. So what I really recommend is getting some folders. I have plethora of folders all over my room. I have one of these binders for each of my subjects, and this is just the things that I deemed necessary for that particular course. Like, this is all the important paperwork that I have, past papers, resources, things like that I do not have a digital version of, just because it was easier for me to have this on hand. This is definitely not something that I am carrying with me day to day, just because it's large, it's heavy, it's bulky. I don't really need half the things in this. I don't need anything in this typically on a day-to-day basis, so I only come to this when I need something out of it. Something else I have is an accordion binder. This is just where I keep all my loose papers that I don't really need. You can kind of divide it up into different sections, and this is basically where I store all the papers that I really don't need, but I might need to come back to at one point. And this is actually a folder that I personally carry day to day, and I don't really know what it's called. It's one of these plasticky ones. I love this thing. I carry it with me today to school every single day. I always have this on me. Yeah, it's extremely beaten up. I've had this thing since year 6, and it's basically a thin folded piece of plastic. It holds your papers and possibly a CD. I don't know anybody who uses CDs anymore, but you store your papers in here, and if you ever get handed a piece of paper, you don't have to hole punch anything. You just slide it in here, you close it. Oops. You close it, don't close on the paper, you close it, and you go about your day. It's not gonna get crumpled, it's not gonna go to the bottom of your bag and get squashed and creased and all like things that all of us have probably done at some point. So this is just something that I personally really recommend. Carry it day to day. I just slide it in my bag. It's really light, holds about, can hold about a centimeter of paper, but I don't have more than like a dozen papers in here at one time, just because most of the stuff, by the time I get home, I hole punch it and I put it into either this or the accordion binder. So, number 2, revision notes. Revision notes is something that I personally didn't do much of during my GCSE years, just because it was a lot easier for me to just hop on Hank Green's channel, put it on 2 times speed, watch Crash Course, and go about my end of unit test. But going hand in hand with organization, revision notes is something that you're going to want at the end of year 12 and at the end of year 13, just to see. It's your own written summary of the year's course, or the 2 years' course, written by yourself. It's not written by anybody else, it's written by you, so it's written by your own perspective. It's going to be a lot easier to absorb and understand, and going hand in hand with the organization, you're going to be able to want to find that a year later. So it's something that I really recommend. Just make the notes. Different people have different ways of making notes. I personally have started using Cornell notes. A teacher of mine recommended Cornell notes to me in year 8, and I really didn't touch them until this year. Cornell notes, you can look this up, but I'm going to quickly go over it. It is a column with a blank side and a summary section at the bottom. In the column, you basically put all your keywords and your definition and your vocabs and everything in that little thing about things that you have to remember and things that can turn into flashcards. In the center is where you draw your diagrams, you make notes, so you jot down important information. I personally really like the flow diagrams, especially if you're taking biology and chemistry. It's really easy to write flow diagrams. You, instead of talking about the entire process. You just write 2 or 3 lines, and then you connect them with arrows, and then you label what the arrow, like the process of the arrow is. It's a quick way to process that information really quickly, especially if the teacher's talking really fast. And at the bottom, you kind of summarize what you did in that lesson, just because sometimes you're sitting there and you're exhausted and you're like, what did we cover 2 or 3 days ago? You can quickly read that and you're like, okay, you got a refresher. So that's why I really recommend you just making notes. And it's something that is really a part of my routine now, especially integrating with the digital side, Notion and all that stuff. Notes is just something you really need to keep on top of during your A-levels. Number 3, grade expectations. Towards the beginning of year 12, don't be disheartened if you get low grades towards the beginning. You can ask any teacher, they'll probably tell you that the step from GCSE to A-level is a massive step. So just don't get disheartened for your first or second end of topic test. If you're getting C's, I personally got a C on my first biology unit test, and I came out fine in year 12 with an A. So just don't be disheartened. Just keep in mind that you're going through an entirely new system, entirely new grading system. You'll get used to it eventually. Just don't get too disheartened in the beginning. Number 5. So number 5 is something I certainly never did at GCSE, which is pre-reading. I recommend you going over your course before it actually happens and just skimming it through. So say on Thursday you have a particular topic that you're going to cover in one of your classes. I recommend going over that in the textbook first, just so you kind of have a gist of what's going on. And this is especially useful in something like chemistry at A-level. Chemistry at A-level it hurts your brain. You basically get told everything you learned in GCSE is basically a lie, and your main concepts of chemistry just gets distorted. So it just gets a lot easier if you kind of know what's coming, if you kind of try to read ahead and just trying to see. It doesn't require too much time. I mean, just 5-10 minutes of skimming through the textbook chapter is just going to do it. Maybe go over some definitions. And it's just going to be more beneficial to you when you're actually in class and just practicing this, just because instead of sitting there trying to like wrap your mind around things, you have a core basic understanding of it now. So like when the teacher's trying to explain it and everybody else is kind of having your mind blown, you're just trying to like connect all the dots, and then you can kind of connect, like make your notes faster, which is going to save time for later. And number 5, finally, this is something that I really should have done more of. But it's actually properly using your free periods. So if you take 3 subjects, you're gonna have a lot more free periods. If you take 4, you're still gonna have some free periods, but you should certainly use them. I really recommend getting away from all your friends in the common room during your free periods when you try and get work done. Like at first you say that, oh, you're gonna be able to do it. It's easier if you go to the library or you go to the quiet section, or you kind of leave where you are. Sometimes I went to the music study rooms just to get some studying in, just because you have all the time in school to do other things, so then you don't have to have homework at home, and you can also touch up your notes, as we spoke about earlier. You can do pre-reading for your next subjects, or you can touch up on an organization. The worst thing ever is when you need a piece of paper and you have no idea where it is, and you find out like 3 weeks later it's at the bottom of your bag and it looks like it just went through Fallujah. So the best thing is just to use your free periods, especially if you are interested in going to medical school. Try to finish all your schoolwork in school, so when you finally go home, instead of having homework or other things to catch up on, you can have time for that to be studying things like the BMAT. The last thing that I just really want to say is that at the beginning, try not to overwork yourself way too much. Like I know I did that. I was preparing everything and I was doing way too much, and I was making notes and making flashcards for every single thing, and I was making 80 notes for one chapter, 80 flashcards per chapter, and I soon had like 400 flashcards, and it was only the 3rd week of school. So just try to take it slow and relax towards the beginning, because by the time December rolls around, you don't want to be burnt out. Try to reserve some of that energy. As they keep saying, it's a marathon, not a sprint. But I just hope everybody good luck in the year 12, and If you would like a part 2, just leave it down in the comments. By the way, I had to film this twice because at first I did it on the laptop and didn't save.